Notice is hereby given that a meeting of the City Council Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs will be held on Monday, December 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing an ordinance relative to pickup of large items. This meeting will be held in person at City Council Chambers, 93 Washington Street, second floor, and via remote participation in accordance with Chapter 107 of the Act of 2022. In-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, and the public may also participate, listen, and/or view this meeting while in progress via the remote participation platform called Zoom through any one of the following ways. Click on the link posted in the agenda to join the webinar, password ID 880216, or via telephone 877-853-5257, enter webinar ID 896-1209-5443, and enter the password noted before. The subcommittee meetings are held to take action for the purpose of making recommendations to the full council. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so on matters not requiring a public hearing, we will post on the City of Salem's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Persons requiring auxiliary aids or services for effective communication, such as sign language interpreter, an assisted listening device, or print material in digital format, or a reasonable modification of program services, policies, or activities, may contact the City of Salem ADA coordinator as soon as possible, no less than 2 business days before the meeting. Notice of this meeting was posted on November 28, 2022 at 2:53 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. In attendance with us this evening are all members of the committee. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. So our last larger item that we'll be taking up this year, final item for 2022, is the request for an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to pickup of large items. So there was some backup documentation that was provided to us during the last City Council meeting, as well as some items that were a letter that was provided as well. I printed for members of the committee additional information just to kind of help guide the conversation this evening that was put together by Janelle, who is the waste reduction coordinator for the City of Salem. So, I forgot. I will also note that joining us this evening from the City of Salem, Dave Knowlton, head of engineering, and Janelle Rolk from waste reduction coordinator for the city. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. The request in front of us is to amend the ordinance by adding the word fee in replace or for pickup of large items. So basically, in summary, currently we don't have any fees for 2-item bulk pickup. Massachusetts recently changed their law that mattresses need to, they can no longer be burned, basically, which was what was happening to our bulk item pickup. And the mattresses have to go through a special program, which is now available by calling I don't know off the top of my head, I'm sure Janelle will be able to fill us in, but that has changed and the city is incurring a fee, as well as the city is also incurring a fee for these bulk items that we are processing. So Dave, I don't know if you wanted to provide a summary or pass it on to Janelle. I think that would be kind of super helpful to just kind of give us an overview of the changes that we're requesting tonight and the reasoning behind them.
Great, thank you for having us. So historically, all bulk items have been picked up by Waste Management, but as of November 1st, mattresses and box springs have become part of the waste ban through the Mass DEP initiative. And with that said, we figured it would be an appropriate time to entertain starting to charge residents for their bulk items through Waste Management. In addition, mattress recycling through Tough Stuff Recycling, since they are now 2 separate services. I did provide historical data just to highlight what has been spent the past in 2021. Just on bulk item pickup for the City of Salem. And these include all items from furniture to mattresses, since those were allowed in 2021. That was over $222,000. Right now, as it stands, with November included, for 2022, we're at $172,000.
Oh, sorry, Janelle, could you speak?
Yes.
It's very sensitive, so
yep,
if you could speak
of
into the
course.
mic. Thank you.
And looking at the 2022 data, this past month is the only month that does not include mattresses for waste management pickup. So you'll see the number 784 for the number of bulk items in November. Those are only bulk items picked up by Waste Management. So I just received the total of mattresses and box springs that were picked up by Tough Stuff Recycling in the month of November, and there were 144 units. That is in line with historically how many mattresses per month the city of Salem was disposing of through Waste Management. However, that cost was $17.83 a unit. Now it is over $50 a unit. So that's just the historical information provided. Next, we wanted to highlight what other communities in Massachusetts are charging for bulk item disposal and mattress recycling. Some things to just keep in mind. Every contract is different in each municipality, and how the payments are structured, et cetera. Those are all different. It's very important, worth noting, that these aren't comparisons. They're not apples to apple comparisons, mostly because the prevailing wage costs will vary from community to community, and the distances, of course, will affect how much one community is being charged from a hauler versus another. But it is helpful information for us to see what other communities are charging their residents to dispose of their furniture that they no longer want. I don't know if you want to take a minute and just look through the different communities.
Thank you, Janelle. I did have a question on that first piece that you were going through. So
Sure.
the bulk item cost.
Yes.
You were saying that November doesn't include the mattress cost. First, I just want to confirm that you said 144 mattresses were picked up in November, and that's a normal number?
That is an average amount, yeah. So we find in the winter months, historically, we've seen less mattresses and box springs being disposed of. Typically, winter months, we'll see anywhere from 60 to 100. During the summer months, we see many more. It could be suggested that Salem is seeing maybe slightly more in November because we're one of the very few communities not passing on a charge. But I don't know. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. First off, thank you, Janelle, for putting together this bulk item list. I'm assuming that these numbers are numbers that are generated before the state. I'm assuming that these are all going to go up per city because of the initiative the state took to recycle for mattresses, at least, correct?
The bulk item
For
numbers?
The bulk, yeah. As far as the either the sliding scale or what, let's say, Lawrence is charging, I'm assuming those numbers are going to come up as well because of what the state did. I'm assuming. We don't know.
I'm not quite sure in terms of bulk items. Some communities already do offer sliding scales. For like chairs, they may only charge $5. For larger items, anywhere from $25 to $50, depending on the items. So there's no real... there's a lot of gray area in how communities have determined these costs. These are all as of today, the bulk item and mattress costs, but everything's rising, so I'm not quite sure. Like how long these contracts are good until and when they need to be renewed or renegotiated, but those are as of today.
I'm raising my hand. Janelle, a follow-up question to that. The $17.83 that's noted as the cost per bulk item, is that what Waste Management is charging us? Like, how do we get charged a flat fee per item, or do we
Correct.
get charged in a sliding scale? So as a city, we get just these are the number of bulk items divided by what we're going to charge you.
Regardless of the item, it's a per unit cost.
Okay.
And that will increase again in July. Typically, we see a 2% increase.
So that's part of the contract that we have?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. Through you to Janelle and David. A couple of things. First of all, does our contract specify that Waste Management has to pick up the bulk items? Can we pick them up ourselves?
Waste Management picks them up.
But is it maybe financially better if we pick them up?
What would we do with them?
Well, what does Waste Management do with them?
They go to an inside.
I mean, just something to think about. I also kind of did a rough estimate of about, if you back out mattresses, about how many bulk items, probably somewhere in the range of 9,800. And if we charge $20, that would be revenue to the city of $196,000, which would cover our cost to Waste Management, right? Since mattresses are arranged privately. That's just my thought, because it seems like 20 would put us in the low end of competitive rate compared to other communities.
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. Through you to Janelle and David. Considering our waste management contract as it stands right now at the $17.40 per bulk item, when our contract runs out with waste management, do you foresee that number going up exponentially?
That's a great question. So in 2025, when our contract is over, I don't know where that will leave us for beyond.
I mean, I'm assuming it's going to go up significantly.
Yeah, I mean, Waste Management
Double,
has
at least.
encouraged me to advocate for a $25 fee effective immediately, because in 1 year's time, that's the rate we'll be seeing anyway. Right now, it's $17.83.
Thank you, Madam Chair Riccardi. Thank you, both of you, for being here. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I want to ask a couple of questions in regard to, and this question that I ask is not only from my response, I wanted the public to hear more about, do you have any information how and why Commonwealth changed that practice that they used to have before, where they was having the cost of those items, and now it's transferring to the cities and town? Do you have any idea when, how, what made them change that practice, if you may?
I think the city of Salem made the decision to cover the cost of this service for residents. Excuse me?
The mattress ban. The mattress
Oh, are you referring
Yes.
to the mattress ban?
Yeah, the mattress.
Oh, to reduce waste in our just our waste system to reduce, because the mattresses are being recycled. So that's a whole new system. That's why Waste Management is unable to continue removal of mattresses, and every municipality has had to find their own supplier to either provide curbside service or whatever else works in their community for a separate provider to take mattresses to be recycled rather than continue to be part of our waste stream.
Okay. That satisfies my answer right there, but I have a follow-up question.
I just wanted to add one
Yeah.
thing, if it's okay with you, Councilor Dominguez.
Yes.
Older mattresses can be very toxic. And so if they're burned, now those poisons are in the air. So I believe when the bill first went in front of the state legislature, a lot of it was because older mattresses are more toxic than a lot of other bulk items.
Thank you. My follow-up question is in regard to some municipal cities and towns have different price on what they charge on the curbside item cost. We see 3 cities who are under the $20, and we see many others on the 40s and 30 and 35, 50. That means that they have a better contract with the suppliers, or what make that difference in terms of what they charge to the residents?
Great question. So depending on who their contract is with and where the items are going, because the distance to where these things are being transported to come into play, with how long it takes to just like get from point A to point B, that goes into the pricing as well.
Okay. And one more follow-up question, if I may. I know we charge in the city of Salem charge $20 for the garbage on the non-owner-occupied residents, which is actually transferred in a very simple way to the tenants, because the landlord might increase the rent because they need to pay, they add those costs to the rent. This item we would do the same thing if we not really find a formula in where we can actually do not put the burden on the low income who are the most affected one. What do you, if you have any idea, what do you say to the public in terms of this cost that we're going to arrive in, that's necessary we need to put into this type of service that we provide?
Yep. So regardless of economic status, I will always suggest that a resident, if they need to dispose of something, I would suggest that they first reuse or resell, donate. And then in cases that there are extenuating circumstances, I have suggested that we look at perhaps a hardship waiver down the line, because some communities do offer that for residents that are unable to afford services like this. So that's something I wanted to also discuss.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. I just want to put this into very easy terms so that I understand, and maybe some of the public, just to cut to the chase. Right now, the way things stand, we're allowed to put out bulk items twice a year, correct?
2 bulk items every other week.
Okay.
So on your recycling day, you're allowed 2 bulk items for Waste Management to pick up.
And you make an appointment with Waste Management to pick it up. They give you a number, they give you a date, and then they come haul it.
Correct.
And the city pays extra for that, but the citizens don't pay extras because that comes out of the tax rate right now.
Correct.
Okay. The proposed change would mean that every time a resident wants to put something out on the street that's a bulk item, they would be paying $20, correct?
Correct.
And that would be done how?
Same way, calling Waste Management, submitting a ticket for curbside bulk item pickup.
So a tenant, not the landlord, would be responsible for the bulk pickup. It wouldn't be something that the landlord would have to incur and then pass on the
Correct.
cost to
So it's
the
on the
tenant.
individual.
Okay. So the next question is the definition of a bulk item. If somebody decides to put out 4 chairs, are those 4 separate bulk items?
So-
Or is that one
Yeah, great
One
question.
unit.
So Waste Management does say a set of chairs are considered one item.
Okay. Is there a list of what
Yes.
items are and
Yes.
and that's available
Yep.
to the public? Okay.
Yep.
I thank you for your list over here that you've given us. It's very informative. The cost breakdown of what it costs the city and what the other cities and towns are paying. Thank you for that. That was
Sure.
a bit of work that really cleared the air a lot. The other part is that we are now looking ourselves is to pass a $20 fee, flat fee, regardless, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Riccardi, through you to Janelle and David. Through Save That Stuff, what is the true cost per mattress?
So it's Tough Stuff Recycling that does the
Sorry,
mattresses.
Tough Stuff.
So right now for curbside service, it is $50 plus the cost of a bag. So we haven't quite ironed out the process on selling or distributing the bags at the moment, but they could be anywhere from $5 to $9 per bag.
So I guess what you're saying is the cost will probably be around $60
60,
to
yeah.
the city. Thank you.
The bag is important because you got to keep the mattress dry because you can't recycle a wet mattress. Yeah. Excuse me. The bag is important because you can't recycle mattresses that get wet if they're left out in the rain or outside for a long period of time. So it's important to bag those mattresses so that they can be recycled and they fit into the program.
Okay, so just to confirm what I heard, so the current Tough Stuff, is it Tough, is that, no?
Yeah, tough
That-
stuff recycling.
And that current fee is $50, plus there will be like a bag fee, and the city is currently covering that. So that's why, for me, I'm thinking the numbers that we have in front of us aren't really accurate, because you noted that it doesn't include that mattress fee.
So so it doesn't include the bag fee.
The
But
bag
on point number 3, the Excel spreadsheet of projected costs, we did build in $60 rather than the $50 for the curbside service, just in the event the bags are $10 each.
Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. There's 20 communities listed in the comparative data, and only 4 of them are under $20. And one of those is significantly more for appliances and things like that. So in my mind, even though the city's eating some costs on the mattresses, right now residents don't pay anything, and I think if we were at $20, it would kind of even things out, and it would create enough revenue at least to cover the cost of what we're paying Waste Management right now for bulk items. And I think it's kind of a fair way to go, because I really think the equity is a big deal. And, you know, Council Varela had asked me about, you know, the condition of units, and, you know, when I sat in Janelle's chair, unfortunately, a lot of people just dump their bulk items on the sidewalk, and couches or sit in the rain for, you know, a period of time. And it's very hard for the Board of Health and others to monitor, you know, move-outs and things like that, which cost the city more money. So those are things that we're not factoring in, like the cost of the city, you know, taking care of debris from the bulk items that's left out for periods of time or more than we've negotiated with Waste Management. So is it okay for me to do a motion now? After you ask another question? Okay. Oh, there is? Okay.
I guess any other comments from the committee? I did have a few comments, or I guess not really a question. One comment that I noticed about the cities listed, I mean, it seemed like it was kind of manual research that you had to do to see what the cities in town, so I appreciate that work, but also I would note that I have family that live on various towns down 114, and they don't even have the option to call in and schedule a bulk pickup, whether they pay for it or not. So I think that's kind of a piece that's missing from the list, is that even offering it as a service, whether you pay for that service or not, is not necessarily a given by the municipality. So the fact that we can still continue to offer this service at what I think is a reasonable fee, I think it will help us move forward to where we need to go overall with our usage of items, of our reduce, reuse, recycle. You know, to have 4 chairs put out on the side of the road, like, that's upsetting. Those 4 chairs should be brought down to Life Bridge, or those 4 chairs should be posted on a Buy Nothing group. Like, there's no reason those 4 chairs should be sent to an incinerator to be burned. And you know, providing it as an easy out for just, oh, you can put them on the curb and somebody will take care of it for you, just human nature, then that's kind of the easy way to go. But I think we as a society in general need to definitely move away from that. I do see the concept of, we don't want to have this as a barrier to many people, that they, you know, I know I just got a new mattress and I had to get rid of my mattress, and same process. So we want to make sure that it's still a reasonable method to dispose of items that truly do need to be disposed of, like mattresses can't be reused. There might be a couch that would be in a similar situation, or items that just generally are at the end of their life cycle. I really like the idea of a sliding scale or some sort of credit or additional way to process that. And then also I'm wondering if when they call into Waste Management and Waste Management talks about the fee, does Waste Management have any sort of literature or coaching to provide to the person once they say, hey, there's a fee and that fee might be tough? Can they direct them to other resources that could possibly take care of their 4 chairs that they want to get rid of, for example, because they're moving out to a place that no longer will have room for those chairs? Or will Waste Management just say it's a $20 fee or not? You know, I'm kind of wondering, like, how can we help guide society to that next step?
Sure. I receive calls daily for bulk item scheduling, and that's my first question: is it reusable? I do not believe Waste Management has similar conversations. I think they're just there to schedule and create the ticket and move forward. I'm not sure if that could be part of their process, but that would be wonderful. That would be ideal.
Do we have anything on our website that says, like, for bulk item pickup, call Waste Management? Could we have any, like, additional bump out there to say bulk items like this that can be reused, and these are the resources in our community that might be interested in them?
Sure. I mean, that's absolutely worthwhile being added.
Awesome. And then the sliding scale piece that you talked about, I think I saw a little note, or hardship waiver. I think that was interesting, and I didn't know how much further down in the conversation road you got with that one.
Yeah, so when it comes to hardship waivers, I have not been able to find many communities that offer them. Ipswich does, as of November, specifically for the mattress recycling. I think of their 900 residents, they've had a handful apply. They don't have any literature advertised. It's more just like the resident reaching out to the city official and arranging something alternate. So there is some gray area, but on how we would have this process. Would it be paperwork? Who would be the contact, and what are the parameters of the hardship? So that would need to be determined.
Any other comments or questions from the committee before I open it up to the public? No? Okay, we do have one member from the public with his hand raised, so I will allow them to speak for public comment. Felipe Zamberlini, if you unmute yourself, you can state your name and address for the record and provide your comment. I will note too, I believe I forwarded or I linked right before this meeting an email that was sent in earlier as well.
Hi, folks, and thank you, Councilor Riccardi. Felipe Zamberlini, 62 Perkins Street in the Point. You can see them. This is one of the worst policies I've read in the city. This is just bad through and through. The underlying policy this is attempted to modify is already inherently broken. The idea that to have a bulk pickup item picked up needs to be called in is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, the concept is supposed to encourage people to rethink how to throw things out, but the reality is that doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Most people, especially in a neighborhood like mine that is extremely dense, are keeping these things in their backyards and they're going rotten, or keeping them in their basement. Speaking from experience, in the transition in my entire condo from being a rental unit to 100% homeowner occupied, we had over 50 bulk items left in our basement in that process. We had to get rid of all of it. Nothing of it was reusable. All of it was bulk items. This is horrendous policymaking. This needs to be put a stop to it. And if you really need to find a way to pay for this work, it needs to come out of our general funds. You don't need to be adding additional fees for us to be able to get the bare minimum service, which is making sure that things that are no longer usable, things that are no longer good to go, are not being collected. And on the other hand, what you're going to do with this policy is continue to promulgate a concept that happens in the city a lot, which is you dump it out and don't call. So somebody like me can say, click, fix, and complain about it, or you dump it out on someone else's sidewalk, like I have seen consistently in front of my sidewalk even, and then I get a notice from the Board of Health saying you have a violation. Well, I didn't dump that bulk item out there. Someone else dumped it in my corner. And this is a really broken policy that you're trying to implement, that is being proposed to be implemented here, that is trying to amend a policy that is inherently even worse. So I would really recommend that you folks think really deeply about this a little bit more. The idea that the city should be charging people to collect things is messed up. This should be part of the general fund. And if we're talking about just addressing perhaps the mattresses is one thing, but when you add each bulk items, mattresses or box springs shall be $20, that is a lot. We've had in the building of 6, so many items put out at the same time because of that process. If this had been in place when we were throwing things out left by others that were not us, we would have been paying hundreds of bucks to shell out things that were no longer good. Recycling, great. Punishing people and putting pressures on people to pay for items is not going to work. This is just a really bad policy through and through. I really hope all of you really rethink this and let them die and find a way to pay this out of our budget. And if it's needed to have a supplemental budget of sorts, I'm sure the council has its techniques and abilities, including working with the mayor to make sure that this is somehow funded. Because at the end of the day, it's a good policy the state implemented. But it's really unfortunate that this was an unfunded mandate so that cities and towns can pass the cost on to us, the consumers, who are already dealing with trash on our sidewalks on a regular basis. It's sickening to have mattresses being laying around the corners and curbs of the point for 3 to 6 months at a time, and no one collects it because no one's called it. It's sickening to see couches go the same way, to see fridges go the same way, to see so many bulk items left on our sidewalks for so long in your most dense neighborhood, most low income, most minority neighborhood, and this is where it's being attempted to be slapped on top of us? No, this is insanity. This is bad policy making at the worst. Thank you.
Thank you, Felipe, for your comments. Sorry, one sec. I guess if there are any comments in response to that or feedback, oh, shoot. Sorry, I muted Zoom. That was my bad. There are any comments or feedback in response to that? I know that there was another topic in our Government Services Committee earlier this year, we might even know it was last month, in regards to the trash and litter, especially items being left out along the roadway. I don't necessarily want to bring in a different topic into the committee, but if we could perhaps talk about education of how we will be or if there's a plan of communicating this out, as well as what the process is for items that are not scheduled for bulk item pickup, if there is one.
I think inevitably all communities, especially when the mattress recycling was being announced, anticipated a lot of illegal dumping and things to that nature. I know other municipalities that are passing on the charges for mattress recycling have seen an uptick of illegal dumping or just things on the sidewalk. But yeah, we've had those discussions. We know that it's inevitable. I don't think it's to the point where there's, 50 or hundreds of these items. Most people understand when it's communicated that we're just holding individuals accountable for their waste. And it's up to them to either find a new use or new life or a new owner for those items. It's fairly understandable. I've never scheduled a bulk item, and I've lived in Salem for 20 years. So it's not an everyday or every month occurrence.
Can you talk about the mailing?
Thank you. Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. So, having done what Janelle has done, and it was a different job, so I was on the road most of the time. And yes, there are some violators that are egregious, and they will leave things in front of other people's houses. They will, a lot of stuff is broken and not being able to use. But this is very much in line with what we were talking about with litter. People who are not going to dispose of their pet waste or put cigarettes, below the butt bins or whatever are going to do that anyway. And like any community, we could do a better job monitoring that and identifying who the violators are if possible. But, the general fund is still money that's our resident money. So it's going to go somewhere. So if we're already subsidizing the mattresses at a considerable rate, about 60% of the cost we're subsidizing. And mattresses, we kind of forced to do that by the general law. But I feel like this is perhaps a way of increasing the awareness as well, because we'll have a little bit of money to maybe, put information in a water bill or a tax bill or something, where we can always do better educating, the public at large. Because it's impossible for one person to do that, but maybe we can use some of the revenue that we generate to, have a campaign that would help educate people. And obviously the the health department has to be a little more aggressive, or we need people to be able to report issues on their street, like the resident reported to the health department.
Thank you. Councilor Varela?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. I'd like to agree with Councilor Cohen that when it comes to residents illegally dumping and leaving their bulk items in front of other people's parcels, it's really a Board of Health issue. It's a health issue. It's not an issue as far as when it comes to waste management. Even with this ordinance, how it's written now, I understand the city's intent to split the cost, but I do believe that a bulk item fee should be separate from a mattress fee, only because I just don't think in the future, when our contract comes up with waste management, that bulk item fee is going to be around $20. I think it's going to be double, triple what it is at this current moment. So with that, when you're ready, I would like to make a motion.
Sure. I'll just add a few comments as well. I agree very much so that expectation can be and responsibility is often directly related to a fine or a fee or a penalty, the same way that you have to pay for something, you think twice about it. I work with a nonprofit in Boston that I've been working with since like 2016, and we go into homes and we help the existing homeowner to stay in their home. Every quarter, we go into about 10 different families' homes. I would say of those 10, at least 8, maybe 9, sometimes all 10 of those homes, the reason we go in is for health and safety updates. Primarily, the number one health issue that we're going in to update is removing of items that they don't need. They've been, just like Mr. Zamberlini noted, they keep in their basement or they keep outside, and then they're just kind of overwhelmed. So we go in and help remove. So I see that problem and I see that issue, but the cities that we're in, they're not responsible for coming in and taking care of all of that waste. As much of a hardship as it is, which is why they reach out to us to help them, I don't see it as kind of a municipality truly, fully responsibility. I do think the municipality is responsible for providing an avenue to help them get rid of these items, but that's why I think there should be a fee, so perhaps it can stop that cycle that we have of you can just save this item and keep it in your backyard, and then in 2 years you can slowly call to get it removed for no fee. It's just continuing to do more of the same, which I don't think will solve any problem at all. And yes, that moving is hard and difficult, and nobody wants to pay an extra fee, so I understand and feel all of that. But I think we have to be doing something as opposed to just providing this for no cost. And I wholeheartedly agree it's a Board of Health issue, much larger conversation of the bad apples that are not paying attention or not utilizing the even free service that we have now. So that's why I don't think adding a fee will make it much worse if they're not, playing by the rules now when there's no fee. Regarding the actual fee, it looks like the research was done to get a good spot right now for the $20 fee to cover us for mattresses and bulk items. Yes, I mean, the price is never going to go down for what we have to pay. That would be nice if it did, but like, just like taxes, you know, like prices are never going to go down for something. But I think we should probably deal with that when we do find out what those fees will be. I don't think the city should be making any profit off of this or making any extra in anticipation that we might be getting charged more. I think if we do get charged more, or we find that like 75% of our bulk item pickups are mattresses because all the other cities are either not picking them up at all or charging $75. So hey, send them to Salem where you know somebody and they only charge $20. So I think we need some time and some data to figure out exactly like where we will lie with what we're getting paid. And that's fine. You know, I feel that the department here will keep a close eye on it. And if we undershot it too much, I'm fairly confident that there will be a request to increase it, especially come budget time.
We have already included in the water and sewer bills the next 3 cycles, just some mattress information on educating residents on what to do with them by reaching out to Tough Stuff Recycling. And it does say at the moment there are no fees for this service, but that can change. So we've planted the seed and at least set expectations that right now it's a free service for residents. Also, the Salem Recycles Committee will now be hosting 3 repair cafes in 2023. So perhaps bringing furniture, or we could have somebody who specializes in, you know, chair repairs or something to that nature, since we really do want to push the reusing and repurposing a bit more.
That's a good question, and it brings me to the note that, I mean, obviously this $20 ordinance fee won't go into effect if we do choose to add it and pass it until after second passage, which would be sometime in January. But I do feel, especially if we've been putting notices in the bills that go out quarterly, there should be some sort of notice provided that a fee will be there. Is there a plan for the implementation of this fee, or were you just gonna start charging?
I was ready to shout it from the rooftops. I was asking for the orange signs and to be located throughout the city, in addition to our website, Code Red, press releases, the Salem Recycles newsletter, et cetera, social media. Yeah, as much transparency and information. Just in general, with the changes for mattress recycling, that was important to communicate to residents, never mind costs. So yes.
Councilor Presnewski?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. I think Mr. Zambolini does bring up a good point that the people leaving trash, mattresses, bulk items in their backyards, out on the street, out in front of other people's houses, that's happening now. Do I think that adding a $20 fee is going to make any difference? No, I don't. I think it's still going to happen. What I think people have to do is hold each other responsible for the condition of their neighborhoods and their properties. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Board of Health has to come up on every item that's being complained about. It should be a pride in your neighborhood. You should be cleaning up your own house, your own property. The landlord should be responsible. And just like we set speed limit signs and other educational information about, you know, don't do drugs, whatever it is, there should be a movement that would hold people responsible, educate people on keeping their property clean, taking pride in their neighborhood, and not allowing their neighbors or anybody to just trash their own neighborhood. So I would like to see that along with the mattress information that's going out, maybe in the next cycle of tax bills or water bills, that there be some kind of a component put in there to take pride in your neighborhood. And if you see trash, pick it up. If you see an issue, do something about it. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
I'm going to invite you to the next beautification committee meeting.
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. Before I make a motion, I would like to encourage at least one of the repair cafes to be at Espacio, if possible, or somewhere in the Point. The location has previously been in a place where there's almost no parking. It's very difficult. It's really been mostly for affluent people. And I think that if you're going to have 3 of them, which I think is terrific, it would be really great to have them around the city. And now I'm going to make,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought that Councilor Cohen just speak on what I was thinking to say, but I want to just add a little bit on that, is that make sure that is bilingual, addressing the second majority population here in Salem, that they actually understand not only on the education aspect, but also on the wave and any other aspect of the program, so everybody be aware and they can take advantage of any facility that you will provide in terms of how can they be benefit, if there is any beneficial, so to speak, and also the educational components. To me, I think that's where we as a city have been a little bit failed. We started the program, we imposing any type of services that are very necessary, but we don't really aggressively educate the public from day one, especially when we launch any program. Sometimes we don't give all the information at once. Many people don't know exactly what's going on. I think that an aggressive educational campaign from day one consistently will help not only make success from the program, but also see some people really cooperating to the program. Thank you.
Councillor Cohen?
thank you, Chair Riccardi. Did you mean Hebrew? Sorry. I'm going to make a motion, and I think, so that everyone understands, this requires 2 passages. So the second passage would be sometime in January, and this would give us more time to interact, anyone in the public. You know, I would meet with anyone who wants to discuss, you know, revisions to this, so that would give us time to interact with people. But I'm going to move that we refer this favorably to the full council.
Second.
Councillor Cohen makes a motion to refer it back to the committee with positive recommendation, seconded by Councillor Presnewski. Councillor Varela?
Yes, I would like to make a motion specifically on this document, if I may.
So we have a motion on the floor to refer this back to committee. It's under discussion.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. So are you looking to amend something within it? Is that
Yes,
okay.
correct. Thank you, Chair Riccardi. I'd like to make a motion to amend Chapter 36, Section 5 to the bulk item remaining at $20 per item, and separating mattresses for a dollar amount of $30. Even though it's not even half, I understand that this is going to go up in the near future. And when we talk about things like programming, education, on educating our residents on how to either dispose of mattresses or recycle them, that's going to cost the city money as well. So that's my amendment there. Thank you.
Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. So I respectfully disagree on this amendment for the reason that our residents have not been paying that. We do have a lot of lower and moderate income residents who are now going to be paying $20 per item. And even though we're subsidizing the mattresses significantly, I do feel like we're going to have a little bit of leeway in extra revenue that can help us with the mattresses. So I just, from an equity standpoint, I'm not going to second it. I'm just going to say that I disagree with the amendment.
Councillor Varela?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. Considering our economically disadvantaged, if we talk about putting in a hardship for families that cannot afford that, I think that's completely appropriate going forward.
Councillor Presnowski?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Cohen. I think that we're starting at $20. When we have nothing right now, let's keep it low. We all know that the prices are going to go up later on, and I think that the public can now expect that this may rise later on as soon as our contract is up for renegotiation. But as a starting point, I think this is a good starting point. Let's start here. Let's see what the numbers bring. Let's keep it low, and we take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. I tend to agree as well. I understand that mattresses are going to cost more. I feel, especially with the budget season coming up, with our waste management contract increase coming up, if there is a burden on the city of the mattress fees and we're like way underwater with that $20 fee, I would expect the city to come to us and propose a different fee. But I do kind of feel that this is a transitional period. And perhaps, we're going from 0 to something. I agree with that, or I think going the route of keeping it as simple as possible is one hurdle that you always want to kind of keep in mind. And then just kind of see, again, going from paying nothing to charging a fee to really see what that collects us and what habits it might change. Councilor Varela?
Thank you, Chair Riccardi. You know what? That's absolutely fine. I understand that this is new, and this is a transition phase right now. So I do expect the city to be on top of when these rates go up. We really need to have another discussion about that. So with that, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Thanks. Yeah, I think of it similarly to like our water and sewer rates that every year in OLA we look at and review, and we have to adjust depending on usage and where it falls. So I would think this would be a rate that would be added into like your annual review when you're doing budget of, does it need to be adjusted, increased? I'm sure that's what the other cities and towns do as well. Okay, any other discussion items with the motion that we have on the floor to refer the matter back to council with a positive recommendation for first passage? Anything else? No? Okay, well, I want to say thank you to Janelle and Dave for joining us this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I will take a vote on that. So for the motion to refer the matter to council back with a positive recommendation, all those in favor? Okay, and I see all hands, so the matter passes 5-0. Is there another motion on the floor? Councilor Dominguez.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.